she said!
Let them eat cake.
Who took the bomb?
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of the Peasant Perspective. Did I seriously just hit that?
You just did, yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's awesome. Woo! Can't believe that was that close. Well,
that was so close.
Wow. Wow. Well, welcome everybody. Good morning. I just came back in. Ron was a couple minutes late. He's like, go use the bathroom.
Well, what are you talking about, man? I was sitting here the whole time.
Through the whole intro.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I thought I'd have 2 seconds to get the pop-up chat going here, but that's fine. Good morning, everybody. Let's see if Weedham Boys or Pony Boys in the chat yet.
Ooh.
Letting people fill into the live. You know, it's so fun every morning to come in and have what amounts to a pretty consistent crew of people that show up. It's super fun. Yep, there he is.
Good morning.
Good morning, peasants. Yes, everybody. We should get him to do a dub in. It's me on YouTube. Don't worry about that talking guy. He's for the replay. All right. Very cool, everyone. Super glad to have you all. Okay, lots of stuff happened yesterday, which seems to be like a thing we say every day. Lots of stuff happened today. No, but seriously, lots of stuff happened yesterday. And I have the hiccups. Awesome. Great time to have the hiccups. Bright and early.
Did people stop shooting at each other yet?
No.
Dang.
Well, in DC they did.
Oh.
Yeah, still doing it in other places.
Okay. Well, I'll take what I can get.
Speaking of which, dang it, now I got the hiccups. Speaking of which, watching, looks like we got, sorry. Okay, watching the situation in DC. Mm-hmm. Now keep in mind, DC now plays this little part in my story, right? I spent quite a bit of time walking around the streets before court and after court and at lunch from court because I was too nauseated to eat anything. So just walk around the Capitol Mall area, you know, just check it out. And of course, in DC itself, in the jail, when I was in solitary, which you're in solitary, but you're in a cell block. So people are screaming through the doors and stuff at each other.
So it's not like a nice and peaceful solitary.
No, you know, if you watch like Oz or some of these old shows, they throw them into the solitary, he's just stripped out naked. They don't do that anymore. Now they give you like a paper gown. But, you know, you're basically, you're just in a cell solitary, but you can hear other inmates screaming and yelling. Like you have a food slot in the door. So you go kneel down by the food slot. Hey, PJ, you know, and you start screaming. It's all night long and all day long.
Ugh.
All night long and all day long. The first couple days I was in there, I remember thinking, this is like hell. This is weeping, wailing, and gnashing of teeth.
Yeah.
Like somebody in there is crying. Somebody in there's yelling. Somebody in there is schizophrenic. And then you've got like 9, you know, SoundCloud rappers in there. They're like, I pulled out my gap. And they're like tapping on the walls and stuff. It's nonstop. It's nonstop. So
how often does somebody just yell, shut up?
All the time, dude. It's crazy. And of course, no, you shut up. It just goes back and forth. It does remind me of that like meme where it's like, what time is it? It's like, F you. F you. It's very much what's going on in the cell blocks. And then of course, the orderlies, they're out like pushing mops and stuff like that. And they're constantly, hey man, what time is it? Hey man, can you get me some toilet paper? Hey man. It's like this nonstop thing. So anyways, when I was down there, I, you know, saw a bunch of inmates coming in and out. Mm-hmm. And you ask them, what are you in here? I'm here for carjacking. I'm here for robbery. I'm here for murder. A guy next to me was first degree premeditated murder. I'm hoping to plead to 8 to 15 years. And I'm like, I just got 7 years for pushing on a gate.
Good luck.
Like, good luck. This town apparently is kind of rough. So the history of DC has not gone in recorded history. more than a week without murder, let alone more than 2. It's been a murder on average every other day.
Man.
So you're looking at like 100 and, almost 200 murders average a year in this little 10 square miles city.
This sounds like a horrible place to live.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that more at the end of the show with kind of what's going on. But I've been impressed with the cleanup. Obviously, a bunch of people are putting up TikTok videos and Instagram reels, which eventually make their way over to X.
This is the same town that has brass fire hydrants?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But remember, there's the Capitol Mall area, which is, I don't know, a mile square,
Okay.
something like that ish. And then the other 9 square miles is the hood.
Okay.
It's like a completely different city. Like you don't go there kind of.
So there's 2 DCs?
Yeah, there's the Capitol and then there's the city of Washington.
The rest of it.
Yes.
Okay.
So every morning you'd wake up and on the news, drive-by shooting last night, another shooting last night, another shooting last night. And it was nonstop. And we'd sit there and just be like, man, Matthew Graves, our prosecutor who's in charge of all this, he'd be going to like the DC council meetings and he'd be like, we need laws that let kids out sooner because, they're just so depressed. They can't help but commit crime. I mean, it's like they had these weird rationales. Yeah, I'm not kidding. But anyways, watching these TikTok videos coming out with people walking, like last night I was watching one with this black guy. He's walking, down DC's like, he's got his big chain on. He's got his big ring on, his Rolex watch. He's all blinged out. And he's like, I got these guys walking in the streets, try to pull up on me and take my bling. I'll just yell, yup. And those guys, they're going to come fight for me. They're going to defend me, bro. And remember my episode, My Gang's Bigger Than Your Gang? The residents of DC that have been terrorized by this criminal element 1%, right, are like, we got a bigger gang. Look, it got FBI, DEA, ATF, the marshals. He's like rattling off all these federal agencies. Like, they're going to protect me. Look, I'm walking around.
I got bling.
He's got his bling. And it's like, yeah, pull up on me. The moment you say, give me yo, I'm going to say, help. These guys are 2 minutes from helping me. It's pretty interesting. So we'll talk about that more as at the end of the show when we get into the city crime stuff and the state crime stuff. But man, it's been kind of fun. I had dozens of those videos and I thought, you always wonder, is this just part of the psyop, is this people walking around with the mask? If I wouldn't wear my mask today, I wouldn't have been safe. Like, is that what's going on? Or is this really the reaction of the people? So I don't know. But we did talk a little bit about how with Alina Abba being appointed as the United States Attorney for New Jersey, how the Senate wouldn't appoint her. So she got an interim appointment. After 120 days, the Senate still wouldn't appoint her. So then the judges voted on her and they decided she couldn't be a judge. So then they put the liberal second chair in her position. And so Pam Bondi promptly fired that person and then reinstated Alina Abba now as essentially, I think, like a recess appointment. Well, now the judges 15 of the 17 judges on this panel are all appointed by Barack Obama or Joe Biden. They decided she couldn't be the United States attorney and that she didn't have any legal authority, blah, 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 blah. So this has put a huge spotlight on this thing called blue slipping. Blue slipping is where when a president of the opposite party is appointing judges and U.S. prosecutors to your home state and you're of the opposite party. So Trump's Republican. So if you're in a Democrat state like New Jersey, then the Democrat senators get to give a blue slip to the president's appointments in that state. So they don't get, if they're going to pass the vote and they're going to pass committee, there's a courtesy that the Senate does to say, well, at least the home state senators, if they're opposite party, should at least approve, like give their, okay, go ahead and let them vote. So what this does in effect is it makes it so that the president of the opposite party can only appoint moderate people that are of his political ideology, or sometimes even Democrats.
I see.
That are moderate. Does that make sense? It kind of, it moderates the potential extremes. Well, remember what I said about Chip Roy and what I said
Doesn't this only funnel one way?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, if you're only getting Democrats or moderates on one way, because you only got, well, if your president's red, then the Democrats are going to go, they're
going to want, yeah. Well, and it goes the other way too. When the president's blue, then the Republicans are supposed to blue slip the appointments.
Okay.
But here's the problem. The Democrats, as a party, in the Senate have multiple times overridden the blue slip. And it's been a contentious issue because, it's not the first time there's been a different Senate party and a presidential party. And so even in 2017, Chuck Grassley, if you look at the screen here, Charlie Kirk reminds us of this, just like Thomas Massey. When it counts, when it matters, when the vote is yours, when you could block the entire Inflation Act, right? The Inflation Reduction Act, the Green New Deal, but you let it through committee because, we're going to have debates on amendments on the floor. That never happens. Give me a break. So Chuck Grassley is a legend. This is what Charlie Kirk, who I have tremendous amount of respect, but on blue slips, he's just wrong. So Trump put out a tweet, basically, Alina Abba pointed straight to Tom Tillis and then to Chuck Grassley specifically saying, you guys, Tom Tillis, you're obstructing generally. Grassley, on this blue slip thing, you're obstructing. You're preventing the president from getting his agenda. And Chuck Grassley's, well, we have this gentleman's agreement in the Senate and these blue slips, and, what can I do about it? This is just the rules. But Chuck Grassley said in 2017, he warned that the courtesy should not be abused. Well, it's now being abused. President Trump has a right to appoint judges and U.S. attorneys of his choosing. So Trump said this, I have a constitutional right to appoint judges and U.S. attorneys, but that right has been completely taken away from me in states that have just one Democrat United States senator. This is because of an old and outdated custom known as a blue slip, and that Senator Chuck Grassley of the great state of Iowa refuses to overturn, even though the Democrats, including crooked Joe Biden, twice have done so on numerous occasions. Therefore, the only candidates that I can get affirmed for those important positions are, believe it or not, Democrats. Chuck Grassley should allow strong Republican candidates to ascend to the very vital and powerful roles and tell Democrats as often as they tell us to go to hell. Okay. In 2017, Grassley said this. Again, this just goes to these politicians, these specifically rhino politicians. I don't expect any different from the Democrats. They blow in the wind, right? They're just about whatever is popular. Gavin Newsom's getting all tough now, right? Whatever. I expect such. I have low expectations for Democrats. For Republicans, especially ones that are just touted as Grassley, I have a high expectation that he's going to be extremely consistent in his direction, and by all accounts, he's one of these reliable senators. If you're a whistleblower, he's your option. He's the only guy you got, Democrat or Republican. He's going to put it in the file and he's going to slowly chip away at that thing. But he said this in 2017. We should not allow home state senators to abuse this courtesy by attempting to block committee proceedings for political or ideological reasons. Okay. Great statement. So you understand the problem. But what's Chuck Grassley going to do about it now that it's actually on his table and he's actually the chairman and he actually could push these votes through and they will pass?
I guess. We'll see.
Chuck Grassley, Thomas Massey, they do this all the time. They do this all the time. When people say, why don't Republicans win? It's because we don't try. It's not that we can't win elections. It's that we seem to have completely changed our opinion from 2017. Hey, we shouldn't allow this. It's being abused. Okay, Chuck, well, now that the Democrats are actually abusing it and everybody can see that, maybe you should stop the custom. It's not a law. Nobody voted on it. It's just your internal rules. There's no reason why we can't have the House representative or the judges.
It's not a law and it's not a procedure. Why is it a thing at all? I don't understand why we even engage in this or even bother to recognize it.
All of it is just, why do we use Robert's Rules of Order? Because they voted on it. That's all. They make the rules on how the body operates. And that apparently is one of those handshake rule traditions. I don't know that it's like written in the rules, but it's what they do.
It's got to be in there somewhere. I bet that Robert's rule is codified somewhere.
Oh, it's not codified in law. No, they re-vote on it every couple years.
Really?
Whether they're going to use it. Yeah, they vote on everything. Well, this is what the rules committee's for. What are the rules of the House going to be? What are the rules of the Senate?
Well, if they're voting on it, isn't that ensconced in law?
No. Okay. That's just their procedures for the duration of the time that they voted on it for. If you go read the Constitution, it's like there will be a legislature and they will make laws. Good luck. And then they let the legislature decide how to actually arrange themselves. Who gets on committees, what committees aren't going to be there. Standing committees are ones where they voted on. And now they got to vote to get rid of them.
That part of the law?
Well, it's the law of the House.
Sure.
It's not the law. I mean, the law is like this catch-all phrase. It's their rules.
Sure.
And they wrote the rules. So they
right,
can change
but that
the
is
rules.
the law, so they can write whatever rules they want, right?
Listen,
I'm sorry. I'm just trying to understand.
No, it's fine. But this is one of those instances where we cannot use the word law to describe this.
Okay.
While in a catch-all phrase, sure, all rules are sort of kind of laws. This is not a law. There's nobody goes to jail if they don't do this. There's no civil punishment. This is just their procedures. These are their rules.
I understand.
There's no like enforcement mechanism. This is like in your house, you're not allowed to wear your shoes inside. In my house, you can. It's not a law. It's just a rule at your house. It's pretty much enforceable by shame. Okay. It's not really like a law. So we want to be careful. Laws are laws. Rules meant to be broken.
Okay, sure. So I guess I just need to change my words. So the rules that they operate under, aren't those, they have the ability to change and manipulate those rules that they operate under while they're in, session. And
they do things like, oh, we have to review bills for 3 days, but we're going to suspend the rules and vote right now. You hear that? A rule suspension vote, a rule suspension vote. What are they doing? Well, they set rules up so that nothing could pass committee, so that the minority would have some say in the matter. But so we constantly have to vote to get things out of committee. We have to, make an exception to get a vote laid. And this is all, they break it all in there, right? Basically, they got the rules that if it goes smooth, you can assume everything is agreeable. If not, it's politics. We're suspending the rules to get this on the floor, as in we're flexing our majority muscle to suspend a rule, to get it on the floor, knowing that we have a 1-vote majority and it's going to pass. They do that all the time. That's why I say these are not laws.
Right, right.
Rules.
And I'm not trying to be an a-hole here. I'm just trying to understand how it is that they have the authority to do this. And it sounds like as long as they're in session, they can kind of make up whatever rules they want to abide by while they're in session.
That's exactly right.
And so I guess what I'm trying to get at is they have this power to create these rules. Is this something that we should be looking at, on top of laws?
No, because they'd make them.
Okay.
It's the way.
But at least we should be aware of them as the public of how they are currently operating, because it is going to impact the outcomes of how they're operating.
There's a phrase that says that if the Senate votes to make the sun rise in the west, it can.
Okay.
Right. Now, how do they do that? Oh, they just relabel the compass. But they can vote on anything. Like they are the Senate specifically is a very all-powerful body. They have very little constitutional rules other than their existence.
And I think what I'm trying to point out here is that us as citizens of this country are pretty much unaware of the rules that they're operating under.
Yes. And like what I just found out last week was all of the state legislatures, with one exception, operate off Robert's Rules of Order. Robert's Rules of Order is essentially parliamentary procedure that creates a good representative mix where the majority has rule, but the minority has some ability for influence and to dictate procedure and make sure there's a true majority on everything that passes. There's another set of procedures called Reed's Rules of Procedure, which are written in order to empower the majority and to limit minority rights. Washington State operates off Reed's Rules of Procedure.
Of course.
Yeah. It's the only state that does. And every 2 years,
well, maybe that's why it feels like it does here.
So a 51-person vote acts like a supermajority. Right? Because the minority has no way to block a bill. They have no way to, hold it up with a bunch of endless amendments.
We basically have no minority party here.
Basically, Reed's Rules of Orders is designed for that. And I said, well, is there any way the change? He says, well, every year you vote, but the majority party's not going to give up their power. So even when the Republicans have had power, they still vote for it.
Well, that's why this state has been almost solidly Democrat for the last 3-4 decades.
Yeah. And barring federal help, it's probably going to continue that way. Yeah. But things are positive on that note. Is it time for a ad read?
Geez, probably.
All right. Well, I'm going to cover this Federal Reserve deal because this was, again, Trump is like, we're not even going to cover his meeting with South Korea yesterday, which, by the way, is the president of South Korea. I encourage you to go look at in fact, let me see if I can just find one.
We are going to cover it now all of a sudden. You want to hear a NFL or a NCAA tune-in ad?
Ooh, let's go NFL. It's almost the season.
All right. Pow.
Okay, but while you're doing that,
Okay.
so I'm going to show people, these are just pictures of the president of South Korea and President Trump yesterday. Tell me that is not a meme of South Korea.
Well, look at Trump's hair.
Look at the South Korean president. Am I being horrible right now?
What the heck?
It's like a meme. It's like a cartoon meme. Anyways.
Guy looks manufactured.
Exactly. That's I'm trying not to be pejorative or, bigoted or biased or racist or anything, but it's the most
Oh, my camera's not even on. We can't do an ad.
camera? What's happening here? Here we're this far into the show and Ron's camera's not even on.
There we go.
There you go.
All right. Set your clocks, mark your calendars, and buckle up for the best NFL primetime football action starting September 4th on Westwood One. You can catch all the bone-crushing hits, last-second heroics, and edge-of-your-seat action that NFL Thursday, Sunday, and Monday nights have to offer. Whether you're tailgating, driving, or chilling at home, don't miss a single snap. Listen on the NFL app, the Westwood One Sports app at westwoodonesports.com, or just say, Alexa, open Westwood One Sports. If it's the NFL, it's on Westwood One.
That's awesome. My wife was like, we need a family sport this year. We need to finally do some recreation. It's been a lot of years since we've let our hair down. So we're like, what sport should we pick? And we've kind of been an NBA family, a basketball family. We love basketball.
Who's your team?
I don't have a team really anymore. I moved a lot when I was a kid, but probably Sacramento Kings, believe it or not.
Whoa.
So anyways, she's like, we need a sport. I was like, well, let's do football. I mean, we have a home football team and blah, blah, blah. And she the other day, she's like, oh, it's something about the MFL, something about something woke they had. And I was like, well, you think the NBA is better? I was like, I'd go with the NFL still. Okay. So a random independent on YouTube comments, are you guys being culties today? I don't know, man. I guess you'll just have to listen for the whole show and tell me if we are. Pony Boy says, can't wait for my bread and circus. Yes, we're getting bread and circus for sure. Okay, so Trump is legitimately in this, like, if you visualize that the collectivist left, the uniparty, whatever you want to call this, has got all these vectors of attack. You've got UN vectors of attack with Agenda 2030 and 2050 things that are rolling down through. Just heard someone recently at a city event that got up and held up the Agenda 2030 and started opening up pages and saying, this is why they're doing this zoning and this is why they're doing this. She was tying in this UN agenda right down to what was happening in our local county. And she's like, how do we fight this? Because our councilmen and county commissioners are acting like they have no power at all. Like this is coming from the top. They can't do anything about it, which is antithetical to the American governing system. Right?
And it is what they will hide behind if you go talk to the local planners.
Yeah, they do. They hide behind it big time.
Oh, yeah.
So anyways, so you've got all these agendas that have kind of just slowly rolling down the hill, and Trump will do things. He'll put out a tweet and it's almost like he just puts a little pebble in its path, right? It creates just this little thing of friction, but it gets that smooth rolling ball to start to bounce, right? It's poof, poof. And as it bounces, it gains speed and momentum. And then eventually, in my opinion, a lot of these things are going to crash up against the rocks, right? As they're bouncing around. See, what's going on with your, no, don't do that. Do not.
I don't know.
Are you unplugged?
We don't need it.
You're unplugged, bro.
Oh, no wonder my camera's not working.
Cameras aren't plugged in. Not even on for half the show. Okay, so yesterday, on top of meeting with the president of South Korea, on top of signing a handful of executive orders, on top of dealing with the Russia-Ukraine thing, on top of this grand conspiracy, which is gaining momentum by the day, which is now wrapping in people that we didn't even think of, like this Lisa Cook lady. So Trump had said, if she doesn't resign of her own because of the alleged mortgage fraud, I'm going to fire her.
Yep.
Well, he did it yesterday.
Oh,
Dear
nice.
Governor Cook, pursuant to my authority under Article 2 of the Constitution of the United States and the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, as amended, you are hereby removed from your position on the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve effective immediately.
Bye-bye.
Yep. And then he cites the criminal referral. He says the Federal Reserve He says this: there is a significant reason to believe you may have made false statements in one or more mortgage agreements. For example, as detailed in the criminal referral, you signed one document attesting to a property in Michigan would be your primary residence for the next year. 2 weeks later, you signed another document for a property in Georgia stating it would be your primary residence for the next year.
Whoopsies.
It is inconceivable that you were not aware of your first commitment when making the second. It is impossible that you intended to honor both. The Federal Reserve has tremendous responsibility for setting interest rates and regulating reserve banks. The American people must be able to have full confidence in the honesty of the members entrusted with setting policy and overseeing the Federal Reserve. In light of your deceitful and potentially criminal conduct as a financial matter, they cannot and I do not have such confidence in your integrity. At a minimum, the conduct at issue exhibits the sort of gross negligence in financial transactions that calls into question your competence and trustworthiness as a financial regulator. The executive power of the United States is vested in me as president, and as president, I have a solemn duty to ensure that the laws of the United States are faithfully executed. I've determined that faithfully executing the laws required your immediate removal from office. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald J. Trump. Beautiful letters. So he fires her, and she fires back and says he has no authority to do it.
What?
Yeah.
Maybe you can't read.
So
Jeez.
a random independent says, are you all being culty today? No, it's not antithetical to the U.S. system. Top-down governance? Okay. I mean, I kind of thought that it was we the people. That's the universe telling you to chill out slobbering. Has authority to fire Fed member is questionable at best and likely not in his power. Oh, okay. So are you telling me we're not sovereign? I'm out. I'm out. We're not sovereign. Okay, I'm out. So they're not at all. They're just above the law. Oh, they're outside the law. I'm out. Then we're not doing with anything reasonable, rational, or that we can depend on at all. I'm out. It's that simple. I'm out. If it's top down like that, the president can't even, we can appoint board members. They're for 14 years, by the way, but we can't fire them for cause. I'm out. And trying to fire someone off of allegations is pathetic, doubly so when it's a lifetime financial criminal trying to do it.
Huh.
I'm guessing he's referring to Trump as the lifetime financial criminal.
I don't know.
Okay. Firing someone off allegations is pathetic. Well, I got fired off allegations. In fact, I got put in prison off allegations that were never adjudicated. Laws are faithfully executed unless I decide otherwise. Well, that's what the president does. He is actually the guy that is above the law. Like, in his presidential capacity, he literally can't do anything that's breaking the law. Now, can he walk out and shoot somebody? No, that's a common law violation, and that's in his personal capacity. But can he walk out and have the military do it? Yeah. A la Barack Obama. He could even drone a citizen and nobody seems to care. Again, I would say, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out. I don't want to entangle with these people. All right. So she says he doesn't have the authority. President Trump purported to fire me for cause when no cause exists under the law and he has no authority to do so. I will not resign, said Cook, who was the first black woman to serve as a Fed governor. I will continue to carry out my duties to help the American economy as I've been doing so since 2022. And good job you've done. Cook, who was appointed as former President Joe Biden, has hired a high-profile attorney, Abe Lowell. Who's Abe Lowell? Hunter Biden's attorney, the one who loaned him money to get out of his tax problems, which wasn't enough money because he still ended up pleading guilty in tax court. Abe Lowell. Interesting. Oh, by the way, this guy smokes a lot of weed and is on camera smoking a lot of weed. So, if I'm a Federal Reserve Board governor, I definitely want to hire a politically connected attorney that works for the former president and has bailed him out and is known to be schlepping around as California resident smoking weed all day long. Yes, absolutely who I want to have represent me. She's not representing herself in a court of law. There's no attempt to actually defeat the allegations or the charges. This is purely political. She went for an attorney that's connected. That's all this is. It's an attorney that can get her protection. Peasant's perspective. You don't seem so independent. What he said his job was to make sure laws are faithfully executed, yet he picks and chooses which laws to faithfully execute and who should be held to that standard. Okay. I mean, this is the weaponization of virtue. Well, if you're so righteous, just do it right. Oh, like close the border? Oh, we don't need new laws to close the border. You can just faithfully execute the laws as written. Mm. Right. There's an intent,
which we can't seem to do every day.
Yeah. Any day ever. Yeah. And this idea that, well, our president's going to be super. No, he's our asshole. Is he a jerk? Yes, but he's our jerk. The people's jerk, the blue collar man's jerk, the working man's jerk, the guy that owns nothing but has nothing but debt all around him every day and slaves away to make those interest payments.
And when his term is
our
over,
jerk.
we'll have a new president.
And when his term's over, we'll have a new president who may not be our jerk. Okay? If you were LGBT for 8 years, you had a really good champion in the White House named Barack Obama. And then again with Joe Biden, who, by the way, kind of abhors you personally, but politically, he's all about it. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's just our jerk. Do they enforce and not enforce certain laws? Of course they all do. You don't hold me to a standard that hasn't any other president ever has been held to.
Yeah.
I question the entire premise of all of this. Emergency powers, executive orders, legislation by default, entrusting the executive branch to determine what words mean and what the laws mean rather than to the legislature itself. I object to certain elements of judicial overreach and their ability to essentially legislate through precedent. I abhor the idea that the 1973 Roe v. Wade Act was even in the realm of judicial capacity, right? But who do you challenge on constitutional matters other than the Supreme Court? You know what I'm saying? So I challenge the premise of all of it. So yeah, he's going to faithfully execute the laws that he chooses? Yes, exactly. That's the point. They've passed a lot of laws, and there's a whole lot of good laws too, and they've been selectively enforced. And I'd love to go read some of the parts in Atlas Shrugged where it talks about, of course, we don't want to have a country of rule-abiding citizens because then what would we use as leverage over them? So yes, that's the power. This is Game of Thrones. It was a chase for power. So I will not resign, she says. The president has taken social media to once again fire by tweet, and once again reflex to bully is flawed, and his demand lacks any proper process, basis, or legal authority. We will take whatever actions are needed to prevent his attempted illegal action. I have a feeling they're going to lose this one. I have a feeling they're going to lose this one. And the reason I think they're going to lose this one is because the Fed, while it's independent, is not. It was chartered in such a way that the president makes appointments. If he can make appointments, he can fire. Not one person that he has fired has, as it works through the courts, has he not been allowed to fire. He has sole executive authority. Everybody working in the executive branch, from a lowly marshal to a administrative, or I guess the administrative law judges work for the legislature unless they are in the executive. So that gets a little hairy. But even judges like that, people on committees, people on non-political appointment committees like the Pentagon History Board or whatever that sued, he has been allowed to fire them all. So if he can't fire someone that he appointed, then that position is greater than that of the president. And that doesn't work for me because that violates the principles of national sovereignty. I'm out. I don't know what that means for the house of cards called the financial system, but clearly Trump is a bull in a china shop and he's exposing a bunch of stuff. Yesterday, short-term treasury yields fell while long-term yields rise. Basically what this is saying is they expect short-term interest rates to go down. Long-term, they're still undecided on what's going on. Y'all parroted Trump was different and not part of the swamp, and then defined the swamp as corrupt politicians. Now y'all saw, well, nobody else was held to this standard, so therefore it is okay. None of those other agencies are independent agencies like the Fed, so you don't. So I don't think you can think of them as the same agencies or positions. Well, if the Fed, I know the Fed's a private organization, but if they're in control of my money and the money says United States of America on it, then I'm party to it. End of story. Go put some other blankety blank country's name on it as the good faith and credit upon which those notes are derived. Every dollar bill that's printed means I owe a good product or service to someone who tenders it to me. So you can put someone else's name on it and you can go redeem that good product, service, or labor and take the energy of someone else's life in some other country. Go put a different name on it. That's my opinion. Federal Reserve's private. It's private. You've got a cabinet secretary's signature on there. You have the United States seal on there. We are the creditors of that money. We are responsible to provide a good labor, service, product, or, effort or energy when it's redeemed upon us, because that is now what's considered lawful money.
For every note printed.
Right. So if we can't unappoint them, all within the sound of my voice, start using silver. Do something different. Do something different. They've become kings and tyrants sitting in their positions. And I'll go to the mats on that. It's just, listen, this country was created by we the people. It's run by we the people. It's been screwed up by we the people, and it has to be fixed by we the people. And it's not going to be fixed by someone like Lisa Cook, who goes and commits patent on its face mortgage fraud. Because they clearly don't play by the rules. They understand the financial system's manipulatable. When I was a mortgage broker, I saw that clearly. Check this box, check this box. I've said it many times, recorded, so it's not even like new. I don't think there's very many people in the country that didn't commit mortgage fraud to get their mortgages. And that's without even going into the fraudulent nature of mortgages to begin with. I'm just saying straight up, I know how loan officers think, and even applicants don't realize the things loan officers do on their applications to get that quarter interest rate lower, or to do this, how
here, I'm going to just click a couple boxes here and make this go through for you.
Any loan officer worth his metal knows how to manipulate his underwriting software. Okay, that's all considered mortgage fraud in one way or another. So to me, the category is so broad and catch-all, but declaring 2 primary residences in a 2-week period is pretty egregious.
It's pretty basic.
It's pretty basic, yeah. So this lady from Promethean Action, she's got a little deal here. How Trump, there's a crosswind that's happening here with banking, interest rates, population growth. Apparently, 2023, if I get this right, was the first year in world history that the world has not reached replacement birth rates. So while you've got certain countries that have got it and even have people available for export, a lot of countries, especially the Western countries, have had a declining birth rate. Well, apparently now the decline is kind of universal. At least there's enough decline in big countries that it's dragging on the third world. That's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty big deal because if you consider...
Isn't replacement rate 2?
I don't know, whatever it is. That's a pretty big deal because when you consider things like Social Security, so this was posted online. I'm just going to reread it. It says it was cut and pasted, so don't know the originator of this, but it all checks out in my mind. A woman dies at 65 before collecting one benefit check, and as in Social Security and Medicaid. Her employer paid into the system for almost 50 years, and she collected nothing. Keep in mind all the working people that die every year who are paying into the system and get nothing. And these governmental morons mismanaged the money and stole from the system, so that is now going broke. Beautiful. And they have the audacity to call today's seniors vultures in an attempt to cover their ineptitude. Disgraceful. The real reason for renaming the Social Security payments is so the government, as they just renamed them to benefits, by the way, from payments to benefits. Yeah. Payment is from the debtor to the creditor. So when Social Security sends you a payment, they were the debtor, you were the creditor, because you loaned them money for 30 or 40 years.
But if it's a benefit, what is it? Exactly.
And claim that those Social Security recipients are receiving entitlements, thus putting them in the same category as welfare and food stamp recipients. This is worth a few minutes it takes to read and digest. FYI, by changing the name of Social Security contributions, it gives them the means to refute this program in the future. It's free money for the government to spend under this guise. The Social Security check is now, or soon will be, referred to as a federal benefit payment. It'll be part of 1%. It'll be part of the 1% to forward this. I'm forwarding it because it touches a nerve in me, and I hope it will in you. Please keep passing it on until everyone in our country has read it, and the government is now referring to our Social Security checks as federal benefit payment. This is not a benefit. It is our money paid out of our earned income. Not only did we all contribute to Social Security, but our employer did. It totaled 15% of our income before taxes. This should be enough for you to forward this message if you don't read it on. Apparently, I got in a email forwarding chain link here. If you average $30,000 per year, which isn't a lot, by the way, working life, and that's close to $180,000 invested in Social Security. If you calculate the future value of your monthly investment in Social Security, $375 a month, including both you and for you and your employer's contributions at a meager 1% rate compounded monthly after 40 years of working, you'd have $1.3 million saved. This is your personal investment. Upon retirement, if you took out only 3% per year, you'd receive $39,000 per year or $3,277 per month. It's almost 3 times more than today's average Social Security benefit of $1,230 per month. Where'd the money go, Ron? Average incomes are higher than $30,000.
I don't know.
According to Social Security Administration, Google it, it's a fact. And your retirement fund would last more than 33 years until you're 98 if you retire at 65. I can only imagine how much better most average income people could live in retirement if our government had just invested our money in low risk in interest earning accounts. Instead, folks in Washington pulled off a bigger Ponzi scheme than Bernie Madoff ever did. They took our money and used it elsewhere. They forgot, oh yes, and they knew it was our money and they were taking. This didn't have a referendum to ask us if we wanted to lend money to them, and it didn't pay interest on the debt assumed. And recently they told us that the money won't support us very much longer. Isn't that funny that they never say this about welfare payments? But it is our fault they misused our investments. And now, to add insult to injury, they're calling it a benefit. If we never worked to earn, as if we never worked to earn every penny of it. This is stealing. Just because they borrow money, the money doesn't mean that our investments were for charity. Let's take a stand. We've earned our right to Social Security and Medicare. Demand that our legislators bring some sense into our government. Find a way to keep Social Security, Medicare from Medicare going for the sake of the 92% of the population. Now, I am generally opposed to Social Security and Medicaid on the premise that this always happens. Mm-hmm. That this is what government does with your investment. When you're like, hey, I'll loan you some money. Take care of it for me. The government is laughing at you.
Yeah.
They're laughing at you.
It's just that.
It's always going to end up this way. Every government entitlement program and every government benefit program ends up this way. Just enough to keep you on it, not enough to get you off it. Right. And in this case, you've been paying into it. 15% of your total income. And that includes the employer contribution, all your working years. And then they have the nerve to turn around and not call it a payment for an investment you made. And they turn around and call it a benefit. And not only that, it doesn't even match. You're not getting enough of a dividend off it to what you've paid in, even as a low income earner. Horrible system. Mm-hmm. And what this has led to is a bunch of problems that the Federal Reserve, in a huge regard, have to deal with. So this lady from the Promethean report.
Well, they have to constantly figure out how to make up the shortfall, constantly.
And that's what the Fed board in Jackson Hole last week was addressing. And they said some interesting things. So we're going to listen to just a couple minutes of this till she lays out exactly what it is the Fed governors have to say about how to fix this problem.
I bet you didn't know that the World Centers just said that unchecked immigration is the only solution to the economic we've all been living through. You might have thought that skilled workers in the advanced sector, really millions of low-paid immigrants, was some conspiracy idea, only a lot. At least that's how the media played it. Issue Donald Trump is now making obsolete. I've been following how central bankers degrade and create fascist movements. Quotes from Jackson Hole and the big Fed meeting there. Next, I'll talk to you about how Donald Trump's approach, absolute opposite of the central to complete doom. We provide you in these videos. Please go and share them and subscribe.
Her videos are too high quality.
Her Jackson Hole speech, the ECB
for a blurred background,
shortage in Europe,
resolution,
and she calls that. She says in quotes, the first demographic trend is likely to, and this is not just a European. New research suggests that 3 was likely to have been in human history when the rate fell below pollution. The UA economic foreign workers account for only.
So 2 areas could still expand labor supply, increasing the share of full-time work among women and extending working hours. Okay, so their problem is demographic decline. The countries that they control the money for, that have production and can suck up liquidity and keep the Ponzi scheme going, need to add employment. So their advocacy is for open border immigration.
Okay.
And then 2 areas could still expand labor supply because they need labor. Increasing the share of full-time work among women. Okay, as a peasant, my principles are that someone needs to stay home and raise the kids. So there's not really a benefit of having women go to work if men need to now stay home and raise the kids. Okay? Someone's got to raise the kids. I'm just saying. Okay. So that's interesting. Your financial betters are basically telling you moms have to go to work. Now, I know a lot of moms choose to go to work. I know that some of them do it because that's the path they want in life.
Sure,
but I know
but it
some
was
of
always
them do
supposed
it.
to be optional.
Some of them do it simply because that's what the budget dictates they must do. Okay. So there's that. And then extending working hours. Okay, so now we got rid of no tax on overtime, and Trump's big thing was, now you can work. Okay, so we're going to go way past 40. And foreign labor. Although foreign workers account for only 3% of the labor force, their contribution of labor force growth from 2022 exceeded 50%. Now, this did come from the Japanese bank Bank of Japan governor, but this was presented at Jackson Hole to all the central bankers. And this is the idea is, hey, you got to bring in labor. And where are you going to get that labor? Make mom work, extend working hours, and immigration. That doesn't sound like much of a MAGA agenda. Just saying. Good morning. Pray the Rosary Daily. Welcome.
Maybe you could ask some random independent person for some input.
Yeah. Well, you know, and I get it, you can kind of be black-pilled everywhere. No one ever is going to live up to your expectations. And my suggestion to people who feel that way is go run for office.
Yeah.
Go do it. Go put your hat in the ring.
Start your own podcast.
Yeah, go put your hat in the ring, right? I mean, go run for office. Like, lay it on the line, man. Like, nothing risked, nothing gained. So that's pretty interesting. Scott Bessent. Now, there's been, teasing on the campaign trail about tariffs are going to be so great. We'll do a dividend check. And I'll tell you what, it would really increase Trump's popularity if he did to send a dividend check to everybody. I know when I was in prison, a lot of black people called it Trump bucks when they got their COVID money. Trump bucks.
That's funny.
And it was a big deal to them. They liked it a lot. So it would sow a lot of goodwill to do that. But the people who are politically involved and whatnot that have been screaming about the debt would freak out. You got excess funds and you're not paying off the debt. And so that's what Scott Bessent says they plan on doing with the revenues.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says that the Trump administration is using tariff revenue to pay down national debt, dismissing the idea of a rebate check disbursement within the next few months. The secretary telling me recently that he's expecting that tariff revenue to exceed $300 billion this year alone. The national debt currently stands at $37.25 trillion. Joining me now is the president for a committee for a responsible federal budget, Maya McGinnis. Maya, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. And you've been so great in terms of itemizing the budget and telling our viewers what the main issues are. What is your expectation in terms of tariff revenue? And what is your reaction to the fact that we're talking about real money now? I mean, Bessent is talking about up to $1 trillion in revenue from these tariffs over the next couple of years to go toward cutting debt.
Indeed, this is turning out to be a very significant revenue stream, and that is good news because we need it. We need everything that we can get that will bring our structural borrowing down. So there are a lot of questions about the tariff revenue. Which tariffs will stay in place? How long will it be collected? Will that base of tariff that the tariffs are put on, will that shrink? But so far, the numbers indicate that the revenue is coming in very strongly. And this is going a tremendous way to offset the additional borrowing that came from the tax cuts that were just passed. And furthermore, his additional news that they're not going to give this money back, but instead use it for deficit reduction is absolutely the right priority. It's very important that we keep that there and help get the government finances back in the right direction. It's not getting us on track. We still have a huge amount of borrowing that they've inherited, but this would offset a lot of the tax cut borrowing that was just put in place. So by all accounts, it's a big fiscal improvement if it stays in place.
So remember, the whole idea of like tax cut borrowing is anytime we save money, they lose money. So, well, these tax cuts, we have to finance them. How do you finance a tax cut? Well, they are running a deficit, not you. Okay. Like, it's the craziest thing to think about that. Well, we have to finance these tax cuts. Finance. I thought you were just letting me keep it. Why did I get a mortgage loan?
Is this like getting a credit card so you can pay your taxes? Here's
what it boils down to. They own all the money. It all belongs to them. Right. So their attitude is like, it's ours. We gotta, that's the other thing too. Independent on YouTube says, where's that quote from? Well, it's from the Japanese central banker in Jackson Hole speaking to all the central bankers. And each individual country, everybody that's subject to some central bank that has someone's currency running around in it, that liquidity, right, has to be mopped up. And the best way to mop it up is through the labor pool, the exchange of that currency back and forth. It creates velocity, ultimately creates GDP. Every transaction gets added into that. And so they need people to take the money. They can't just pack it away into real estate and let it sit somewhere. It can't just be packed away into treasury notes.
Then it becomes the talent that's buried.
The talent that's buried. Exactly. Better it would have gone to the money exchangers and at least gotten 1%. That'd probably be the scripture we should put right above the Social Security office. don't bury your talents. Like, at least give it to the money changers. Jeez. But yes, so they've got to mop up the liquidity. And so that's where immigration comes in, is because you've got people to give money to through labor, or just straight up paying stuff for them. Like, that's one of the things that, oh, hey, we can help the service industry by putting immigrants in hotels and playing full rate at the hotels. Well, sure, that gets money into circulation. That takes up the liquidity. One of the reasons why our stock market is reaching record after record after record is because in the United States, when you're looking at all the investments that are available to you, there's not a lot of like factories going on. There's not a lot of corporate bonds being issued for big, huge projects. So where do you go? You go to the stock market. Stock market gets bigger and bigger because it's mopping up the liquidity. It's somewhere to park the money. But as soon as opportunity finds itself out in heartland America and some big factories being built and bonds start getting offered, money will come out of the stock market and go into Main Street. And you'll see the stock market now go like this. And people, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. No, just invest in different things.
No, they're just buying real assets.
Money doesn't leave the market. It just moves. It's like a waterbed. Yes. It just kind of, as one goes down, somewhere else goes up. As Wall Street goes down, Main Street's usually on the rise. As Wall Street's rising, oftentimes Main Street's on the downslope. What Trump's business model is he's trying to get both to go up, and part of that is closing the borders and basically saying, look, there's liquidity, rather than just trying to mop it up with crappy people to mop it up. I want to give it to the movers and the shakers, right? And let them accumulate. And presumably everybody, rising tide raises all boats when you're talking about a country setting. Okay, so Donald Trump was also asked this question because one of the things he did was he made this interesting little trade with Intel and ended up picking up 10% of Intel. And he was asked, isn't that like communist, like corporate ownership of business? I think that's a fair question.
During the campaign, you called Kamala Harris a communist, but the Biden-Harris administration, they never called for nationalizing a private company with the federal government like you're proposing with Intel. What do you say to some who say this is a bit hypocritical? And is this the new way of doing industrial policy?
Yeah, sure it is. I want to try and get as much as I can. If people come in and they need something, as an example, as a real estate person, if I have an agreement and I have any form of a stopgap where I can stop somebody from doing something, right? I have a covenant and an agreement, and they come to me and they say, would like to do something, but you have us restricted. If I do that, they usually have to pay. Now, in the case of Intel, it was interesting, but I hope I'm going to have many more cases like it. Intel came in. I met with a gentleman. I had a lot of respect for him. He came in under a little bit of a cloud. I liked his story. I thought he was good. I think he really means to do a good job with Intel. I said, I'd like to ask whether or not you'd give, because the story, a lot of people said I invested in Intel. I didn't invest, but I invest my heart in it and my soul because I want the country to be strong. But I said, I'd like you to give 10% of Intel to the United States of America. Not to me, to the United States of America. And I said, if you have them as a partner, you have the United States as a partner, I think that would be a very good thing for Intel. And he thought about it a little bit different. And he said, I like that idea very much. We have a deal. And I just made $10 billion or $11 billion for the United States of America.
Okay, so there was a little bit more backstory to this that didn't really get told very well. And some of the media is freaking out. So,
this is kind of a big deal because if the U.S. government is your partner, doesn't that affect how you can do business in the world?
We're going to sign the document together.
Potentially. This gets into this weird area where Americans are very gray. Okay, because we have the constitutional republic, which really is there to regulate commerce, not to do commerce. But then we have this democracy called the Corporation of the United States. And it is created to do commerce, right? And it kind of has the authority of the de jure republic government, and by de facto, it sits in the seats. So your board chairman also, or your CEO also serves as company president, right? They kind of wear two hats. And this is something like even here, I don't know if you know, our local building department is an independently chartered not-for-profit corporation that's independent from the county. Did you
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the building department is separate from the county. So when the county commissioners are doing building department work, they actually, the way the bylaws for the building department are written, the county commissioners become automatic board seat members and they appoint themselves. So they do this little like round robin appointment. So when you go to a county commissioner meeting and it's building department business, they are on the board of directors and they answer to the shareholders of that board, who is not you. And it is not the constituents. They were not elected to that position. They were appointed by virtue of their election to a different position. So it just basically said, that's like me saying, I can grab the CEO of any media company and he can run my media company. I could just randomly appoint them to be like, it's a weird deal. That's kind of how the US has all kinds of these things going on, where it's a corporation with a bunch of sub corporations called Intel, AT&T, Cisco, Ford, GM. Like, these are all sub corporations, creatures of the state, so to speak. They're supposed to serve the public good. That's the whole point of a corporation. You go back to the Helger-Hinkle decision, 100 years ago, that talks about that. So this is Howard Lutnick sitting in with the CEO of Intel, explaining how this deal went down. And I think it's interesting. I'm not 100% sure what my opinion on this is yet.
I'm sitting with Lip-Bu in my office, and at 3:00, we're going to sign the document together in the Oval Office, where the United States of America will own 9.9% of the great American technology company, Intel. I can't be more excited for America and for Intel that we get to work together.
First of all, thank you so much, Secretary. And this is a very big, important historical agreement that we can work together. And then more important, I don't need the grant, but I really look forward to have the U.S. government be my shareholder, and we can work together, make Intel great again.
So what happened is Lip-Bu became the CEO of Intel, and he came to see me, and he said, the Biden administration gave this company a grant of $10 billion, and we don't need...
Okay, that's the key. The Biden administration, in their effort to dump gold bars, dumped $10 billion on Intel as a grant attached to nothing.
Okay. Wow.
So this CEO of Intel's like, money doesn't come attached to nothing. There's always strings attached. Okay. What strings are attached to this money?
Need a grant. We're a great company. Maybe not with the best leadership, but now it has good leadership. So he said, and that was the conversation. And then when we had the conversation with the president, he said, look, we don't want to take your money away from you, but shouldn't it be fair? And we agreed that it would be fair that the same money that you give a company, America should have shares for it, because it's just fair. And we agreed together. And then you went to your board of directors.
Yes.
And they agreed.
Yes.
It's a giant public company, so it had to be fair.
Yes.
It had to be fair.
Had to be fair.
There's no other way. And so we did it fair for Intel and for the American people. And I think this is exactly what Donald Trump is all about. I'm really excited that today we get to do the deal.
That's right. Thank you so much for your support.
So that is what he did. Basically, rather than ask for the rebate or ask for the money back, he said, how about we just convert it into shares and we can buy the shares? Why not?
Okay.
Why not? In a world of geopolitics and how the Communist Party, every company that does business in China automatically basically is owned by China, right? Maybe this is the move. By naming the United States as an actual shareholder with common stock, it puts the fiduciary responsibility on the board of directors to act in the best interest of the shareholders. I mean, really, truly. I mean, if
when it comes to chips being manufactured around the globe,
might not be the worst thing to have the best interest of your shareholders in mind, and your shareholders actually be the United States. Unlike what it is in most of the corporate world, where the best interest of your shareholders is a private equity group that eventually leads back to some kind of hedge fund that's called Bujang Tang Tang Investments. You know what I mean? And it's like, we have to operate in the best interest of the shareholders. Well, who are the shareholders? Bujang Tang Tang Investments. That doesn't sound very American, or you know what I mean? Like, yeah, exactly. And that's why they strip your manufacturing and send it overseas, is because it's in the best interest of Bujang Tang Corporation, right? Some foreign company. So I think that's pretty good there. Were you charging the Capitol building trying to stop the certification of a Democratic election?
What are you reading?
YouTube comments. Democratic election? Debatable. You are immune to facts. When they don't suit you, you just dismiss them. We at least consider them. Yeah. Yes. He says that I'm going to catch people up on a YouTube chat that's been going on between Sapphire Patriot and whatnot. So it says, I said, no hypocrisy. He said, we can't let the good be the enemy, or it better be the enemy of good. Otherwise we end up with evil. And a random independent says, it's a cute saying, but there are plenty of other ways to end up with evil, like painting other citizens as enemies of the state. Dude, this is my response. I spent 14 months in prison labeled an enemy of the state. So yes, that is the whole point of the show. It doesn't matter if the boot comes from the left or the right. It's still a boot on my neck. And then he says, were you charging the Capitol building trying to stop the certification of a Democratic election? And I said, Democratic election? Debatable. You are immune to facts. When they don't suit you, you just dismiss them. We at least consider them. No, he was not. We are asking for a pause, not stopping. Which facts? I'm still waiting to hear. Okay.
Man.
When it comes to the 2020 election, I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, you need to stop engaging with this fool.
Yeah. All right. We are done doing that. Yeah. If you can, just go do your own research. Okay. So one other thing that Donald Trump did yesterday, and by the way, a random independent, we go literally days on this show where we don't even really mention anything Donald Trump's done. Clearly he's the president. We kind of talk around it, but we don't like read all of his Truth Socials every day or anything like that.
No.
Like it's a policy decision here or there. How does that play out? Like, but today, yeah, it happens to be quite a bit of Donald Trump. He had a big day yesterday with a bunch of press conferences. And he said this yesterday too, because we had this big EU deal, which was supposed to be like the biggest deal ever. And then the whole thing kind of got delayed and stalled over this issue of censorship. Mike Benz has been talking about this as the globalists' next front. They came into the United States. They started kind of going after free speech. Trump gets elected, puts a kibosh on it at the federal level. So now their new front is at the state level because they're trying to keep states able to basically run their own censorship regime. And then they're also trying to use other countries to create censorship regimes and backdoors. So this all came to a head with the EU because the EU is like, hey, we've got fines for Apple, we've got fines for Facebook and X, and we want backdoors. And we not only that, but they wanted user data for all users across the platform internationally to see if they're speaking bad about the crown or they're speaking bad about Brazil's government or whatever it is. And they can institute fines. And this stretches back to about a year and a half ago where you had, I can't remember exactly who it was, the chief solicitor in England, basically their attorney general equivalent, who was saying, we will indict people for crimes against the state, even if they're American citizens, and will request extradition. So what they were saying, that was a shot across the bow to Elon Musk, basically saying, stop talking about the rape gangs going on in Britain. We'll indict you and drag you over here to stand trial in our horrible free speech laws. Okay. So Trump took a stand to this, and J.D. Vance did as well. And he said, as the president of the United States, I will stand up to countries who attack our incredible American tech companies. Digital taxes, digital service legislation, and digital market regulations are all designed to harm or discriminate against American technology. They also outrageously give you complete pass to China's largest tech companies. This must end. And now, with this truth, I put all countries with digital tax legislation, rules, or regulations on notice that unless these discriminatory actions are removed, I, as President of the United States, will impose substantial additional tariffs on that country's export to the USA and institute export restrictions on our highly protected technology and chips. America and American technology companies are neither the piggy bank nor the doormat of the world any longer. Show respect to America and our amazing tech companies, or consider the consequences. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. His thank you for your attention to this matter is his signal to people like, get hopping on this.
Yeah.
And then he also signed this one in all caps as president of the United States. So it's a pretty serious tweet there, or truth there. And he's serious about these other countries taking advantage of us through non-tariff regulations of barriers of entry and barriers to do the business. If an American tech company that's supposed to honor Americans' free speech rights goes and does business over there and they don't, and they spy on us, this is part of the problem with the whole Russiagate thing. The American intel apparatus, in order to avoid accountability for spying on American citizens, outsourced the spying on American citizens to Australia and England, Britain, in order to avoid spying on U.S. citizens. So they let them do the spying with our awesome tools and powers. And then we took their information and we're like, oh, well, we didn't spy on them, but we just happen to know XYZ about Papadopoulos or XYZ about Carter Page, all of which turned out to be false, by the way. Okay, so that's what Trump is saying. He says, it doesn't matter how you cloak this. We're not going to let you guys violate our free speech. We're not going to let you step all over us. This is a big deal. And now keep in mind, he's using his great, awesome powers that are vested in the executive branch of government, kind of, yes, looking like a bully on its surface. But you got to remember where we're coming from. You're literally coming from a regime that destroyed an entire social media company called Parler. Poof, gone. You're looking at a regime that was totally willing to take the duly elected president of the United States from 2016, still serving in office in 2020 and 2021. They took him off the internet. Took off his account on X, on Twitter, took his account off Facebook, took his account off Instagram, took his account off Snapchat, took his account off all the social media platforms. Poof, just like that. Still the duly elected president of the United States. Still the guy running around with the nuclear football. Nope, can't have him. So, oh, hey, I'm going to stand up for free speech. Stop being a bully. What are you talking about? I'm trying to restore the game. I'm trying to restore the field of play here, right? He's not being a bully. He's not doing what they did. He's literally saying, I'm going to allow criticism. I'm doing the opposite. I'm standing up for free speech. And so much so that you've got fools like this, Stacey Abrams. Remember, this is the paradigm they're coming from. They've gotten so sick in their brain in seeing this. And a random independent, you might want to listen to this, because if you align with this thinking Trump is the king, Trump is the Ayatollah, you sound like this.
I want to tie this back to the abundance agenda and how you think about blue state power. If it is true that he's a grand Ayatollah, that mystical power extends and can be, he can anoint his prophets, and he can remain in power even if he doesn't hold the title of president. And if that's the case, then there's no relief from this that is achieved by election, especially if we are truly in an authoritarian regime where elections are not real. I want to tie this back to the abundance agenda and how you think about blue state power. If it is true that he's a grand Ayatollah, that mystical power extends and can be, he can anoint his prophets, and he can remain in power even if he doesn't hold the title of president. And if that's the case, then there's no relief from this that is achieved by election, especially if we are truly in an authoritarian regime where elections are not real. I want to tie this back to the abundance agenda and how you think about.
That's how stupid they're sounding. Well, if Trump is the Ayatollah, he can just anoint his prophets and continue on in power because it's not really the. You guys sound like morons. He's not a king. He's going to leave in 2028 unless some magical re-amendment happens, but he's totally trolling you guys because your brain is so fixated. You all know that Barack Obama was the Ayatollah and he appointed his ministers and priests, and you guys continued on in power as a shadow government. You're that thing. Okay? You're that thing. Barack Obama didn't leave DC. Barack Obama's still going over to the White House. Barack Obama, and by the way, Alex Jones broke this yesterday. They have all Jack Smith stuff. He was totally coordinating with Barack Obama as to how to go about doing this. And they planned on doing show trials for Americans en masse, like UN Hague things where you don't have to be there for trial. They just go, all the people that had Parler accounts that posted hashtag stop the steal, we are now convicting them of XYZ. And then they just leave you out there in the wild with a warrant. randomly waiting for an international arrest. Like they had some pretty crazy stuff in plan.
Jeez.
And the thing is it's not beyond belief because they did it. I was rounded up. I was part of this. I saw how they did it, the mechanization of it. I saw how our rights were violated. I saw how we were silenced. I saw how we could never get our story out. I saw how judges blocked stuff from coming to court. Like every place that you thought you could lean on for your rights and the laws, completely hogwash. And the vast majority of Americans see this. And the one thing that Donald Trump has done that's good is he's painted the sins, and independent, whatever your thing is, this is one thing that's true. Donald Trump has done a good job of painting all the woes of the swamp on one party, the Democrats. And granted, we understand the swamp includes quite a few Republicans too. Started out the show today criticizing Chuck Grassley, ended the show yesterday criticizing Massey and Chip Roy, and right. It's not like we don't have our own warts on the Republican side of the party, but the Democrat side of the party is taking an absolute beating. And despite what the media says, most Americans get it. Listen, if having an authoritarian in DC means you don't have murders for 2 weeks, we'll probably take it.
Look, the Democratic brand right now has about the appeal with the American voter as the Cracker Barrel rebrand has with the American consumers. Bad, bad, bad. What are you doing? Oh, my goodness gracious. What are we talking about here in terms of big party registration changes in the key swing states? Let's look at the key 4 swing states that, in fact, do keep track of registration by party. Look, the Republican Party is in their best position at this point in the cycle since at least 2005. In all 4 of these key battleground states, we go out to the Southwest, Arizona. How about Nevada? Republicans haven't done this well since 2005. Oh, my goodness gracious, at this point in the cycle. North Carolina, I couldn't find a point at which Republicans were doing better at this point in the cycle. It's at least this century. It probably goes way back in the last century. And Pennsylvania, very similar. Republicans doing better at this point than at any point this century, at least as far as I could find. Now, what types of things are we talking about here for the Republican Party? Well, let's compare it to this point during the first Trump administration all the way back in 2017. Look at this. The Republican Party gains in party registration compared to this point back in 2017 during the Trump first administration. In Arizona, you got a Republican gain of 3 points. Okay, how about Nevada? Up the hill we go, even though we're sticking in the Southwest, a gain of 6 points. How about, again, we come to the East Coast, North Carolina, a gain of 8 points for the Republicans. And in the Keystone State, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, again, we're talking about a gain of 8 points. My goodness gracious, for Republicans, they are converting old former Democrats to their side of the ledger, as well as picking up new voters, registering new voters, and it absolutely paid off for them back in the 2024 election.
Democrats are screwed, bro.
Yeah.
They're screwed. They are absolutely in projection mode. I mean, it's so bad they're making comparisons that Trump's the Ayatollah. I mean, we've moved past Hitler, we blew past Stalin, and now we're to the Ayatollah. I mean, we're in like concurrent time frame here. You know what I mean? Like, who's the baddest mofo out there? I don't know. The guy you gave $158 billion to. Oh yeah, the Ayatollah. Let's accuse Trump of being the Ayatollah. He's taking bribes. Who's paying him? These guys are bad news bears all the way around. It seriously cracks me up. So here's Trump talking about DC and the criminals going on.
Say a few words.
There was a couple.
Lost control.
This is an amazing thing. I believe I saw this firsthand. I believe in my time in DC and the gulag there, interacting with other inmates, interacting with the guards, hearing kind of this long saga that was the DC jail and kind of everything that's gone on there. This doesn't surprise me at all. As they've come in and they've taken over DC, whether you want to call it totalitarian or not, it's so funny to me. I think this a random independent, like, go back and my gang is bigger than your gang. Like, I've been pointing this out the whole time. Like, yes, there's hypocrisy all around, but these people run the place. So I want my bully in charge. I mean, if I want my gang to be in charge. I mean, if I'm a peasant, I'm self-interested. Okay. So he's talking about DC and the crime stats, and Stephen Miller jumps in here because they've found some things that are absolutely stunning.
Because they've lost control of their place. Steve Miller, please say a few words.
Thank you, sir. So just to, first of all, follow up on what the vice president said. No police officer working in the city can remember a time in their lives when there has been no murders. You can work at the police department for 20 years, 30 years, your whole life. We've checked the records. No one can even find a record of being murder-free for as long as we've been murder-free under President Trump's leadership. Additionally, and the president spoke about this before, we've uncovered, in the process of uncovering, a massive scandal in Washington, D.C. with the doctoring of crime stats. And the Department of Justice, under the Attorney General, is leading the effort to uncover this. But when we ultimately share the results, it will stun you. The extent to which, even though D.C. had the worst crime in America, honestly measured, it dramatically understated how bad it was. There's even accusations that murders and homicides were reported as accidents instead of murders. I mean, this is how severe the manipulation of the crime data has been in the city, and it will all be uncovered and it will all be brought to light. You know, I've had a chance to spend some time, as has everyone here, with the police officers in the city. Members of the public are going up to them and thanking them, just overflowing with gratitude, because for the first time in their lives, they can use the parks, they can walk on the streets. You have people who can walk freely at night without having to worry about being robbed or mugged. They're wearing their watches again. They're wearing jewelry again. They're carrying purses again. People have changed their whole lives in this city for fear of being murdered, mugged, and carjacked. It is a literal statement that President Trump has freed 700,000 people in this city who were living under the rule of criminals and thugs. And the last thing I'll say is that under the efforts of Terry, to my left, and many here, what they found also is that the street criminals here in Washington, D.C. were doing business directly with the transnational criminal cartels, the foreign terrorist organizations. So not only was the city being run by these criminal thugs, but they were working with some of the most dangerous terrorist organizations on the planet to traffic weapons and drugs into this city. And what we are uncovering every day is shocking to us, and we look forward to sharing all the results with you. But President Trump, your leadership has uncovered some of the great public safety scandals of our life. And now, because of you, people are safe and free for the first time ever in this city.
Thank you very much, Steve. You know, in Los Angeles.
And then Trump goes on to talk about the other cities that are having.
That's incredible.
Doing this. Yeah. So a couple
I
things.
think that's a factoid that I missed in civics class in high school, that our capital is just rife with murder on a weekly, daily basis.
And it has been for
forever.
A century. Yeah.
And we're just not doing anything about it until now. I mean, we didn't even know about it till now.
And again, yes, you had to swarm the streets. I don't know. I mean, I don't like seeing a bunch of jackboots in the street either.
No.
Right? But at the same time, they're not looking for me. Independent. I don't like the idea of my bully. Listen, you haven't listened enough. The whole point is get out of the system. Go be self-independent. Go be self-sustaining. Go be self-governing. Right? Release the ties that bind. But in the meantime, we're watching this big show happen. This stuff matters, right? Like, I do have to go out and walk on the streets of Seattle. So I do care if I'm safe or not. And to the extent that my voice can make a difference, I'd like to see it cleaned up. Do I want to see it cleaned up from an authoritarian? No, but don't force the issue. Right? Why is it that we have situations like in Baltimore? This is the current mayor of Baltimore, Wes Moore, who has presidential aspirations, by the way, and he's being asked by Morning Joe, "What's going on in Baltimore? Is it really this crime-ridden city?" And he points something out, and this is something that my good friend Doug, which, by the way, Doug, if you're listening, hello, Doug used to point out, because he's from the Baltimore area, and he's like, "The city's dying. The city's literally lost." And he said these exact numbers, 300,000 people in the last decade or something like that. Why are they leaving and where are they going? Well, Wes Moore knows why.
But first, I just want to ask you, just in general, what historically has been Baltimore's greatest challenge? Why has Baltimore had a crime problem over the past 3-4 decades?
Well, I think oftentimes Baltimore's had a neglect problem. You know, and I think about Baltimore used to be a city of 920,000 people. Baltimore is now a city of just under 600,000. In fact, if you look at the past few decades, Baltimore's had one of the most precipitous drops in population that we have seen in our country, with the exception of Cleveland and Detroit. But let's also remember this. There's a legacy of Baltimore. That Baltimore...
But first, I just want to ask you.
I was getting ready for that. There's a legacy of slavery.
Historically has been.
I was just looking at that, thinking about that. Wow, a third of your population in a city disappeared,
and they're fleeing crime.
Wow,
that's the primary reason they're leaving. They're fleeing crime. So we've been neglected, by all the elected officials up till now, including you. right? Why is Baltimore struggling with crime? Baltimore and DC are like right next to each other. Like you could easily live in Baltimore and commute to DC every day. So Baltimore is, you look at DC and it's like the north part of the city of DC is where all the crime is. And then there's Baltimore right above it. They kind of go hand in hand. So there's an overlap there. So Trump's keeping DC clean. I'm sure some of that's probably spilling over. And what Stephen Miller said is these little street gangs are connected with these international cartels. Go back to our narco terrorists are running the country and think about the steps and connections you need. If you've got an active organization stretching all the way into DC, you could send a little street thug to go pass a message at the diner shop to a senator. That's how outrageous it has become, right? It's that outrageous. I did see, where are these drugs coming from inside of the prison? Well, from the narco terrorists that are running the street gangs that are infiltrated through the guards and you know what I mean? Like it's pervasive. So the fact that they uncovered that, whatever they got, I'm sure they've picked up people's phones and, oh, look, why are you calling Nicholas Maduro? Wouldn't that be great? It's like a direct connection. Okay, so this is Governor Pritzker from Illinois, and he's talking about how he doesn't want Trump to come in and fix Chicago. He doesn't want military involvement there. I mean, he makes some good points.
To tell the president that his proposed actions will make our jobs harder and the lives of our residents worse. Earlier today in the Oval Office, Donald Trump looked at the assembled cameras and asked for me personally to say, Mr. President, can you do us the honor of protecting our city? Instead, I say, Mr. President, do not come to Chicago. You are neither wanted here nor needed here. Your remarks about this effort over the last several weeks have betrayed a continuing slip in your mental faculties and are not fit for the auspicious office that you occupy. Most alarming, you seem to lack any appropriate concern as our commander-in-chief for the members of the military that you would so callously deploy as pawns in your ever more alarming grabs for power. As a governor, I've had to make the decision in the past to call up members of the National Guard into active service. And I think it's worth taking a moment to reflect on how seriously I take that responsibility and on the many things that I consider before asking these brave men and women to leave their homes and their communities to serve in any capacity for us. As I've said many times in the past, members of the National Guard are not trained to serve as law enforcement. They are trained for the battlefield, and they're good at it. They're not trained to arrest people and read them their Miranda rights.
Okay, good.
Okay. Well, apparently you're not doing much Miranda-izing there anyways. Chicago is a war zone.
Yeah.
Now, I heard Trump saying we're going to just go to Chicago and maybe do this, and he went on this diatribe. I want the governors to want this. I don't just want to send troops. I'd like them to request it so that it's all above board and stuff like that. But we got to stop the killing and the dying. And like J.D. Vance makes the point in that Oval Office meeting, he goes, listen, like 2 weeks with no murders in D.C. It sounds outrageous to say that, like we're bragging. Hey, we went 2 weeks without murders. There's some countries that go 2 years without murder, right?
Really?
They're like 2 years, 2 weeks. Wow, that's incredible. But that's how bad it is. Like, why is anybody fighting with this? The results are good. Are there any innocent people that came off the street? Do you hear any, do you hear any child rapists being put up as Maryland dad? Which, by the way, oh my gosh, all that lawfare is going to get that guy deported to Uganda instead of back to his home country of El Salvador. And anybody taking up the cause of Alberto Garcia, it's like, dude, he's on traffic camera trafficking. Like he's on body camera trafficking human beings. Like it blows my mind that anybody takes up defense for him, but whatever. Okay. So, former governor K-A-I-C-H.
K-A-I-C.
Whatever. He was the former governor of Ohio.
Okay.
He was on MSNBC talking about, Trump and the crime stats. And I think they thought they'd get a different take from him. Now, keep in mind, this is one of those never Trumper Republicans.
Governor, look, you understand very clearly what it means when the National Guard comes into your state, what it means when it comes in to you. Only was he not happy that he wasn't being thanked for this. He suggested that there are people who want a dictator. He says, I'm not a dictator. I'm being accused of being a dictator. But some people may want someone to come in and take control. So I wonder how you see this and what the options are for governors in this case.
Well, I mean, I have to tell you, I have such a different take than what we've just heard. To talk about a manufactured crisis. Have you been in Chicago? Have you been in Baltimore? But my daughter went to school in Chicago. I remember the day she graduated, there were shootings and killings right outside of her building. And in Baltimore, I have friends that go down to Johns Hopkins, get treated for medical conditions. I mean, they are nervous about ever going there. There are parts of Baltimore that he tells me he wouldn't go into. And this is not some right-wing person. This is somebody who wants to be able to go into some of our great cities and be able to be safe. Now, I do think it's important that if you're going to do this, you've got to define the mission. You've got to talk about your authority. And I think one of the earlier guest was saying that, well, maybe there's narrow ways to do it. I agree with that, but that just then says that there are ways to do it. And if I had a crisis in Cleveland, we thought we were going to have riots or in Columbus or whatever, I would never have put, the fact that, well, I'm governor. So I would want to work with other people who wanted to help me. And look, what's been happening in Chicago has been terrible. The crime rate is high. The gang problem is real. I tried to get Arnie Duncan, the former education secretary under Obama, to run for mayor. He's out there trying to work to get, to deal with the gang problem. He didn't want to do it. But I think Chicago is a jewel of America, and we just cannot let lawlessness and fear dominate these cities. So, yeah, I think we need to know what the mission is. I think we need to know what the authority is. I think we need to know what the length is. But the idea that these cities are somehow fine, I think you're
I don't think anybody. Listen.
I heard the word manufacturing crisis. This is a manufactured crisis. No, it's not. It is a crisis.
Go ahead, Basil. You're dying to jump in here.
This is a crisis. This is not a manufactured crisis.
Well, it was manufactured. It just wasn't manufactured by Donald Trump.
But but he's saying there's real murders.
I mean, these governors are manufacturing the crisis.
A manufactured
with
crisis,
sanctuary status.
A manufactured crisis would be that there was an insurrection on January 6th. There was a protest. Might even go so far as to call it a riot. Fair enough. But it wasn't an insurrection. That's a manufactured crisis.
Yeah.
Okay? When he's saying what you're doing is you're taking something and you're calling it bigger. No, this is the opposite. You're calling this a manufactured crisis. What are you going to tell to Susan and her dead daughter? That wasn't manufactured for them. That was a real thing. People had the same thing with it. Manufactured crisis, school shootings. Did people die? Did funerals happen? Didn't feel very manufactured.
Well, this truck driver, remember this truck driver?
Yeah.
Just peeled over did a U-turn on the highway and 3 people died. Got his CDL license in Washington State, a sanctuary state.
Not a manufactured crisis.
Not a manufactured crisis.
Oh, by the way, more, again, this one kind of went viral, but more and more videos of people flipping U's. There was another one with the guy on some road that was snaking, and he had the truck basically jackknifed. He couldn't make the S turn, and there was a sign that says no trucks.
Yeah.
And the guy is standing there. He's like, does the guy speak English? Nope. Iranian all the way. He's like, Durka, Durka, Durka. And he's like, can he read the signs? Nope. Does he know how to get unstuck? Nope. He's like, all these cars are backed up, and including like delivery trucks. He's like, nope. Not supposed to have semi trucks up this road. We could have a whole show just showing clips of that. I mean, it's crazy. Okay, so Donald Trump, and this is JD Vance. I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier.
I've been for decades.
How is it that people are against cleaning up our streets? And, maybe it is. Maybe we are gearing up for a police state. I'm uncomfortable with it, too.
I don't want a police state.
I wish people would just raise their kids to make good choices.
Yes.
I wish we weren't left with this mess. But that is another thing. I saw it with my own eyes. It's easy to live in a bubble out here. It's easy to live in our little rural community, and everybody, for the most part, does their thing. And, we could do with a little dose of libertarianism here and get the county out of our properties. And, let's get rid of some of these stupid environmental codes. We are plagued with environmental codes in the Pacific Northwest. Okay. Environmentalists have just been running this place for way too long.
And there's no such thing as a square inch of ground out that is critical somehow.
Yeah, there's nothing that's not critical. Yeah. So on one hand, it's like we could use some libertarianism. There's a lot of self-governing. We're out in the hinterlands, right? But my journey through the prison system, I realized some of these people are, in Portuguese, we used to call it mal educado, right? These are poorly educated people. Like, they do not have grace. They do not have understanding of process. They don't understand rules. They, you know, these are the people that you can lie to them about what the system says, and they think that that's it because, like, they don't have any context to go, what are my rights? You know what I mean? Like, and so that's, you know, one of the things when I stood up and told the judge, answers to my questions, like, you just don't have to, don't work for me anymore. Apparently 98% of defendants, you just have to do XYZ, works for them. Right. So it was, anyways. So how do you deal with that kind of people? And that is the thing where it's easy to sit back and just want to be a libertarian until you actually get into these communities and you're like, whoa, there's something real here. And it's going to take a bigger game to deal with.
Roughshod over their cities and have been for decades. Why are Democrat governors angrier about federal law enforcement helping clean up their streets than they are about the fact that those streets need to be cleaned up to begin with? It shows a real sickness in the head. And I agree with the President of the United States. I think most Democrats, rank and file, nobody likes crime. Republicans don't like crime. Democrats don't like crime. Independents don't like crime. Why are Democratic governors doing everything in their power to make crime easier to do in their cities? It doesn't make an ounce of sense to me. But, Mr. President, I appreciate you being willing to help, and I hope these governors take you up on the offer because we should clean up all of America's streets. It's the right of every American to live in safety and comfort in their community.
That's a good question. If you're in a city like Chicago that has, you know, pretty bad crime stats, why are you not out there cleaning up the streets in the first place? Why does it take federal involvement to even prompt you to do it? Mm-hmm. Why are you more upset that the feds might help than that you need help? You
know this, I mean? Like the teenager that won't clean his room, and then when somebody comes in to clean it for him, complains?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Okay. All right. It is time for us to jump over to private. You guys, we had a great day. A little quiet on Rumble, but we had lots of discussion over here on YouTube. Sapphire Patriot, you're a patriot. A random independent. You said you voted for Pete Buttigieg, or would have voted for Pete Buttigieg.
No, she voted for Harris.
Oh, voted for Harris. Okay. Well, all right. Good for you. Glad you exercised your.
I'm glad you voted.
I'm glad you voted. Maybe. All right.
I'm glad you voted.
You voted against me getting out of prison. I was a single issue voter this last election. No, I wasn't given the right to vote. I was sent a ballot, but I wasn't given the right to use it. But I was a single issue voter. I want to go home. I'm done with the prison thing. So, you know, I'll take the bully. I'll take the demagogue. I'll take the authoritarian. Shoot, you can call him Ayatollah Trump. I don't care. He let me out of prison. Okay, I wasn't getting out till 2030. So I was pretty happy to get the pardon. Yep. Okay. So we are going to jump over to private, and we are going to be talking about Trump commenting on the Mar-a-Lago raid. We're going to be talking about a huge scandal with hotels and hidden cameras and foreign owners and operators again. And then we're going to be touching on the autopin scandal. And then we're going to be talking about flag burning, probably Trump's most controversial thing that he's done. And it shouldn't be controversial at all. So a lot of people are reacting. They're getting into panicking territory where they're like, oh my gosh, they're going after free speech. Not at all. Read the executive order. This goes after crime associated with flag burning, not the flag burning itself. So anyways, we'll be talking about that on private. So with that, all of you guys that are not in the Rumble premium listeners that can listen in private, we will talk to you guys again tomorrow. Yep, with bit ado.